is now ready." One by one, they all began to make excuses. The first one told him, "I bought a farm and must go see it. Please excuse me." Another said, "I bought 5 teams of oxen and I'm going to check on them. Please excuse me." Another said, "I just got married so I can't come." When he returned, the servant reported these excuses to his master. The master of the house became angry and said to his servant, "Go quickly to the city streets, the busy ones, and the side streets, and bring the poor, crippled, blind, and lame." The servant said, "Master, your instructions have been followed and there's still room." The master said to the servant, "Go to the highways and back alleys and urge people to come in so that my house will be filled. I tell you, not one of those who were invited will taste my dinner."
第14章15節から24節まで拝読いたします。列席者の一人がこれを聞いてイエスに、神の国で食事をする人は幸いですと言った。そこでイエスが言われた。ある人が盛大な晩餐会を催して大勢の人を招いた。晩餐の時刻になったので招いておいた人たちのもとにしもべを送って、さあおいでください、もう準備ができましたからと言わせた。ところがみんな一様に断り始めた。最初の人は、私は土地を買いましたので行ってみなければなりません、どうぞお許しくださいと言った。他の人は、私はごついの牛を買いましたのでそれを調べに行くところです、どうぞお許しください。もう一人の人は、私は妻をめとりましたので参ることができませんと言った。しもべは帰ってきて以上のことを主人に報告した。すると家の主人は怒ってしもべに言った。今すぐに町の大通りや小道へ行って貧しい人、体の不自由な人、目の見えない人、足の悪い人などをここへ連れてきなさい。しもべは言った。ご主人様、仰せの通りにいたしましたが、まだ敵がございます。主人がしもべに言った。道や垣根のあたりに出て行って、この家がいっぱいになるように、人々を無理やりに引っ張ってきなさい。あなた方に言っておくわ。招かれた人で私の晩餐に預かる者は一人もいないだろう。以上です。
Let's pray. Lord, let the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart and all of our hearts that are gathered here be pleasing and acceptable to you, our rock, our Redeemer, and our Savior. Amen. This morning, I had prepared a sermon on giving you practical tips. We've been journeying this summer about the art of neighboring, and it just so happens that next Sunday is the Nikkei Community Picnic, and this art of neighboring really ties in well with where we are going to be out in the world. And then yesterday, Charlottesville happened. And many of you are probably watching the news, following along, and I don't know, maybe many of you were outraged, maybe even horrified, lost for words that such racism and anti-Semitism, sexism is so alive and thriving in America. But I don't know, maybe some of you are following the news and kind of neutral about it. Maybe you don't think it's that bad. Saying maybe it could have been a lot worse. I think what we can both agree on, wherever we stand, is that when Jesus calls us, says we are to love our God with everything we have, and Jesus commands us that we are to love our neighbor as yourself. What we see, what we saw yesterday, is not the kind of neighborly love that God calls us to be. Now, this is something, the neighboring, such an important task for us today, I think now more than ever before. This needs to be engraved in our hearts. We need to live and breathe as if the way how we neighbor, our life depended on it. And what we do is, by the art of neighboring, loving God and loving our neighbors, we bring kingdom reign here in our coexisting space. Michael and Rico read for us from the Luke chapter 14 about a great banquet. And what it's describing is a heavenly banquet where the host is looking to invite and set this table before his people. He invites many to come and experience what it's like to be loved, what it's like to be embraced and accepted. A neighborly love like none other. And the host tells the servant, okay, now go now and let the invited guests know that the dinner is ready. You know, they didn't have clocks back then, so servants were really kind of the mouthpiece or the messengers who would go and find the invited guests and notify them that the dinner was ready and when they should arrive. But the servant comes back saying, you know, one by one, guests could not attend this banquet. And, you know, when we read the Bible, many times we're left to speculate, okay, why is it that, you know, it turned out this way, and why weren't they able to make it? But today, we actually get to hear the reasons why they couldn't attend. One says, sorry, I can't go because I have to inspect this new field that I just bought. Or sorry, I can't go because I gotta check out my oxen, my team of oxen. And the last one is the best, right? I clearly cannot go because I just got married. Now, we might think these are legitimate reasons for not being able to make it. But what you're meant to see from these examples is that they're really a bunch of lame excuses, right? Nobody would buy a farm without inspecting it. And there is no way that you would hold a wedding and a banquet on the same day. You wouldn't schedule it that way. It's a communal event where people are going to be flocking to one to another. It's right? And let's benefit of the doubt, the husband really wanted to be with his wife that day. Okay? Well, then he shouldn't have accepted the invitation to start with. You know, the guests are insulting the host by their last-minute decisions not to attend. And I don't know, maybe it was as if like, you know, they were too good to attend this kind of banquet here. And this is the heavenly banquet that Jesus is describing, right? What kind of banquet is this? You know, we don't have a lot of banquets in our gathering, in our church, but you know, we do have from time to time important things. We have Student Recognition Sunday, we have potlucks, we have Easter and Christmas, and when we have these important things, you know, I want and expect everyone to be there. And you plan for these important events months, sometimes hours and hours on end. And as the date approaches, right, you're just consumed by all the things that go into it. Like, what am I missing? What else do I need to do to make sure that this banquet goes well? You know, as an afterthought, ask Rachel Olsen how her wedding plans are going there. And you'll know, she can give you a taste of what it's like, right? It's a lot of prepping, a lot of thinking, coordinating, and recruiting, and just many hours of emotionally and physically invested. So when we have these things, I want you to come and enjoy. And it's not a banquet, frankly, if you're not all there. And I know that not everyone can attend, but I still get bummed out when you're not there. When you tell me, sorry, Pastor, I won't be in town that day. I'm really sorry, I can't be there. Or you have really, really sound reasons why you can't be there. You know? But it still hurts. It still hurts because I want you to be there. Only this isn't the end of the story. You know, this host, instead of falling into despair and saying, so much for planning all that stuff, right? The host becomes even more determined to have his house filled with people. He tells his servant to go out and bring all the blind, all the lame, all the crippled, all the undesirables. Come willingly, show up. And so those who aren't usually invited to fancy banquets, those who can't test their oxen in the field, or those blind and lame who don't normally marry because of their disability, are asked and invited to come sit at the table. After the first round, the servant comes and says, I've done what you said, and there is still room. And the master said, well then go on. Go into the streets, urge them, compel them to come, so that my house is completely filled. You know, the beauty of this story is that the host isn't going to stop until everyone is sitting down at the table. These people who were invited could have given really good reasons as to why they could not attend. They could have said, I don't have anything decent to wear to this fancy banquet. Sorry, I cannot be there. The crippled man could have said, I cannot be there because I don't have anyone to carry me there. The blind could have said, I can't be there because I have no way of finding my way to that place. And all of them could have said, I love to go, but I just haven't bathed in a few days and my clothes are dirty. You know, or they might have accepted, but asked, what's the catch? What's the catch? What do I have to do if I attend? But there wasn't anything. And they all accepted this offer because the servant convinced them, really persuaded them that no, they were really welcome and the host really wanted them to be there. When they entered the banquet, no one's visa status was asked. No one entered the banquet based on their religious or non-religious backgrounds. No one was expected to come and behave properly, mannerly at the table. Not one of them came to the feast based on the color of their skin, their socioeconomic status, their gender origin, none of it. And so the master's house is filled with people from all over the neighborhood, all walks of life. What I hope you see from this example is that our host is unrelenting when it comes to inviting people to the table. He doesn't prepare a table for those who feel entitled to be asked to be there, who feel like they are the ones deserving of this banquet. All means all. The servant isn't selling admission tickets to enter the banquet, nor was it a banquet that raised funds for the kingdom, but it was a banquet and all you needed to do is come as you are with a big, good appetite. In my third year living in America, in the United States, my parents, we moved from a second floor apartment to the first floor for good reasons. You know, in Korea, we lived on concrete ground, so we could just, and it was a big deal for us as kids living on second floor, and we would get, you know, and so my parents decided, okay, let's move to the first floor, and so we did. And I want to share about this particular neighbor that lived in front of us. You know, and already from the beginning, it was a different kind of relationship. You know, my mom, who cooked Korean food, day after day. I remember, and I told you this before, she would, you know, my vivid, you know, image of her after dinner was, you know, making sure that the bread is in that toaster and it's burning, and airing all that Korean kimchi stew smell that's in the air, right? And sometimes you gotta open the door and the windows, right? And so we do that, and we just hope no one passes us by during that time, because, you know, I took it even as a young child that we weren't always welcomed. People kind of gave us funny looks, you know, and we walked differently, we dressed differently, we ate different foods, we smelled differently, but the neighbors in front of us, none of that, right? And we would often catch ourselves when we opened the door at the same time, And we would like be, quick to close the door. But these neighbors, they would come and say, what are you guys cooking there? Right, interested in our food, and to a point where we actually share some of the Korean japchae food that I bring to potlucks to them, and they enjoy it, right? They're not going around pinching their nose and saying, oh gosh, why do I get to have to live with this kind of neighbor here? Well, this neighbor, a young family with kids, invited us to their family picnic. And I started worrying like a child could worry about everything. Our social circles were very limited. We only knew Korean families, and we didn't have a lot of white American family. And certainly we were never invited to this kind of family picnic. And I worry that all the ways that we didn't know how to be an American would be exposed basically at this picnic. I questioned everything. I was like, okay, so what did the teacher say about what you say when you meet people the first time? How do you do? Nice to meet you. And I was just questioning everything. And I'm like, okay, so I think I got it done, but what does my mom and what does my dad gotta say, right? I'm worried about my parents, and I'm thinking, what are they gonna think about me, our family, the whole Korean people, right? My worry just kind of continued. And my stomach coiled up, certainly when we arrived at the park, and it didn't help at all, because from afar, as we're entering the park, this was not a family picnic. This was a huge gathering, almost like the size of a church congregation there. And I said, okay, well, maybe I can just blend in, right? We can blend in and nobody won't even notice. That wasn't going to happen. We were the only Koreans there. And so, this anxiety and this worry continued. We were the wrong people at the wrong place. And I was frightened. But when we got there, boy, was I glad to see our neighbor come running, ready to greet us. And it wasn't just the neighbors that we knew had invited us. It was the rest of the people there. They came too, running, beaming with smiles, as if they had waited for us. It was pretty alarming. And into that mist, I remember all that worry I had. All that worry that my mom wouldn't understand English, my dad would say something funny and make us look bad. All of it dissolved. All of it dissolved. And I remember being in that picnic, just being a kid, a 5th grader, enjoying playing with the kids around, seeing my parents being embraced by these neighbors. And that was a picnic that I will never, ever forget. I wonder if this is the same way that God invites us, that God pursues us and loves us and never leaves us, right? That God continues to invite us until we experience this unmerited grace, until we respond to God's invitation and show up. God doesn't just offer a piece of mochi and say, good, huh? Come, and I'll give you more. Doesn't just give you a taste and says, now you can buy the whole package. We're having a discount here. No. It's come as you are. No strings attached. This invitation sometimes is so good, is so hard to find, is too wonderful that we don't even know how to accept this kind of invitation. But God keeps calling. Come. And likewise, God's party, this heavenly banquet, what we learn is that it's not just an event, it isn't a place, but it's the way of experiencing life and feasting that is far better than we could ever imagine or ever expect. But friends, it is not God's party until the people whom the world has dishonored and dismissed are received as guests of honor, whether they are poor, wounded, or different. It's about experiencing life and saying, this is my brother, she is my sister, that is my mother, And that is my friend. It's relational. That's what Jesus' kingdom is all about. Same way, friends, the church isn't a place that we go to when we come. Church is something we are called to go and do. It's a verb. It's action. It's mission. It's something that God's children go. And just as God loved us first, we go and do the loving thing. It's showing up in places where our neighbors feel unsafe. It's showing up and standing in solidarity with those who are trampled upon, saying this isn't right. There was a better way. You show and you free the gateway. You know, in light of the recent events and news that's kind of jarring, you know, I don't just now imagine, but I know there are a whole lot of people who think they are the hosts of God's banquet, and they stand in that gate, deciding who gets in and who doesn't get in. This is not the way of God, nor is it the loving response that God calls us to do. Our Master extends that invitation for you, and you are officially invited. Will you show, or will you find excuses to why you cannot attend this banquet? And who might you be able to extend this invitation? What good might come from having experienced a heavenly feast where no one is turned away, all are welcome, and you are loved just as you are? Because there is still room. There is still room. Redemption is still at work. There is still room. And to get an idea of this heavenly banquet, I found a short video clip that I want to share with you. In no way am I promoting, it's a commercial for an airline, KLM. I'm not promoting them, but it's an idea that I want you to kind of see and see where that takes you. And we've checked everything that it works. This came out last year during Christmas, and so I'm bringing Christmas a little bit earlier. All right. Have you seen this before? You think so? Okay. All right. storeroom. For those who worry that once somebody leaves, the table would go up, it stayed. Who there else? Oh. Let's pray, folks. So there is still room, and we thank you for our time together. What a privilege it is for us to worship and come together at the banquet. You call us to feast on. Lord, in times when we find ourselves making excuses to attend your banquet, falling short of inviting your people, our neighbors, when we are quick to claim our place at the banquet without inviting those around us, forgive us. And I pray that the spirit of boldness and courage to love one another as you first loved us will be alive and beating our hearts. Help us to be the kind of neighbors that welcome the stranger. Help us to be the kind of neighbors that you call us to be. Let us commit to love and justice, committing to truth-telling, peacemaking, and following the ways of Christ every day. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. Please join with me as a hymn I believe Ruth Ann selected a while ago, and I learned thank you. It's 707, Hymn of Praise. And, please rise as you are able.